I'd never seen one of these before, so I thought I'll have a look at that. It says 3.6 volts, but it's too old to be a modern 3.64 volt piece of equipment, so I think it must have an old NiCad style battery in it, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was dead simply because the battery was dead, but we won't know if there's anything else wrong with it until we have a look. Maximum diameter screw 5mm. No load speed seems to be about 300 revs per minute. Chuck on it. It's got an on-off switch here. When it's there, you can't press the trigger in. When it's there, you can. And then up here, it's got mark left and right. There we've got a point of charge, so that's where our charge point went. Looks like it originally had a double-ended bit that you could keep in there. And then we've got, I'm not sure what those are in there. I can't tell if they look like they might be, they could almost be Phillips. Oh, wrong way, so that won't do us any good. So this one, that's it. So let's try that one. Yeah, so that's just the Phillips bit, so we should be able to whip those out then. And we've got 3 more at this end. I don't think that one's actually going in. There we go, got it. Well, that's not a good sign. That one's come out rusty. And it's different to that one, and it's different to that one, and it's different to that one. Oh, and I think these, oh no, it's different to that one, so I think that's the wrong, come on, we can't get that one. So there's a magnet on the end of there, but it's not playing ball. Let's see if we can lift this. No, it doesn't want to lift. Why is it stuck? Feels, I wonder if there's something sticky or something. Oh, click. It still feels like it's jamming. Oh, there it goes. Oh, there's a wire right over on this side. That seems a strange place to put that connector, but still. Does that become part of the switch? I think it must, but look at that, it's all green. Ugh, and it's a bit sticky. But the reason that I was interested in this is that I wondered if it would be like this. I wondered if it would have actual proper bits in it, like from days gone by. Actual metal bearings and things. Look, metal gears, metal bushes, a nice bearing at the front. That could even, I'm not sure if that's a bush or a bearing. So yeah, nice quality stuff. This looks like your typical 3.6 NiCad back. Try lifting out some of these bits. So that's obviously what stops the switch. You push that up, the switch can't move, and then you push that down, the switch can move. So that's all that does, that just stops that sliding. That's obviously the plastic trigger part, so that's your trigger. And we've got this battery, which we wouldn't want to keep anyway. And then this motor seems like it's fairly well jammed in. Yep, it's definitely hanging up on something. It's not that, I think it's this switch that's causing it to hang up. There we go. Ooh, bead of solder, that's not a good sign. Well, they've used a wire bridge, a sort of a metal bridge to go all the way around there from the switch, all the way around to the motor. I think something has leaked in here. It might have been the battery, or something else has leaked in here, because this is definitely showing signs of, I don't know, some sort of corrosion, and it's all sticky. Be nice if we can keep the switch, be nice if we can keep the motor, but the motor is seized solid, so that is definitely not going anywhere. Gently tug on that, just wrench that off, so that's off. And we need to remember that's the plus end, and this end is the minus end. We'll just rip that off. Oh, there we go, so that's the minus end. I'll put some red on there, that can be a reminder to me that that's the plus end. Alright, let's see if we can get this motor unsoldered from the switch. Oh, that was easy, so that's one lead off. And the other side. Oh, I think I just... Oh, yep, this. I can see a piece of motor flopping about inside, so no wonder it's not working. Oh, there we go. Right, so that's our switch off. Right, we just need to find a way of prising this motor apart. I can't see, normally these are staked. Oh yeah, there it is, it's been staked there and there, so I just need something to bend those 2 points apart. You really don't want to know how long I've been prying on this, trying to get this thing apart. I've finally managed to get those tabs to move up a little bit, and I've got that one to move up a little bit. Basically what I did was I took one of these jeweler's screwdrivers, which I thought, well, it doesn't really matter if it breaks, and I've been using this to pry at it a little bit at a time, just a tiny bit underneath there, and it's beginning to wear into the plastic, as you can see. But as there's a fair chance that this isn't going to be any use afterwards, I don't think we need to worry too much. Let's try prying on it with that. Ah, that gives me a bit more leverage. Oh, there we go, something's moving. Oh, there we go. That's the end off. We've got one brush, but I don't think the motor's going to work with one brush. Oh, that's turning. Oh, that bush or bearing that you would call it is seized solid. So that's seized on there, but that might be okay, because that might be meant to be. Oh no, let me have a look at that. No, that's not meant to be, that's just held in there. So this is meant to be swivelling on the end to act as a bearing, and it's seized solid. So it looks like this was just a little DC motor, and this thing's been in water at some time, I think. I wonder what the chances are of finding some way to replace those brushes. Right, I've just drilled the end of that rivet off. There it is. Some sort of brass rivet, and I should imagine that should push through. But it's probably quite a tight fit in there, but that should let us lift. To come out now, whoops, and it did. So it looks like we need a brush, we need that bit, and these two bits form the rivet, so we need some kind of brass rivet to hold the whole thing together. Can get hold of that, and it's off. Shaft, I think that's pretty much perfect. But these Scotch-Brite pads are amazing for cleaning stuff up without doing too much damage to it in the first place. I'll just give a quick polish on the end of the motor shaft, but it seems fairly clean. I'll put a little bit of oil in there. And we should. You can just feel it grabbing, so it might want a little bit of a free up some more, but you can see it's just making that a little bit dirty, so it's pulling a little bit of dirt out of the inside there. But I found another motor, but that would fit inside there. It's quite a bit longer, well, about 10mm longer, so it's not going to fit. But this piece and that piece look very similar, so I wonder, can I put that piece on there? Again, you don't really want to know how long it took to get that little bit loose there and that little bit loose there, but they've finally been pushed back a little bit, so I should be able to pull that out. And this time you can see it's very, very similar in there. It's just a pity they're a different length. That one's out of the way. That one's out of the way, so that should go on. So why are you not going on? Oh, and that feels tight. Don't tell me this is not. No, it's not going to go on. So what's the difference then?
Fountain needs some more water.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Are you recording?
Yep. That's it. Is that going to line up? Ah, there it goes. Alright. And then that. Was in there like that. And then that's our pin that was holding it all together. Now I don't know that we can really use that because it was pinned over at the end, and obviously it's in a bit of a state now. But equally, I don't know where I'm going to find another one that looks the same as that. So I think I'll just put it back in for now and worry about that later. If we can get it back in, that is. Oh, there it goes. Right, that's in. Right, now, is that going to be? Okay, that looks about the middle point. That looks about the middle point. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay. I think that's on there okay. And you can see this is the bit that was peened over before, and it's now obviously can't be peened over because there's not enough of it left. Right, I've tried rolling that round on the end a little bit. Squashed it out a little bit. I don't know whether that will be good enough in the long term, but I don't think there's a great deal of strain on that. That's pushed down tight now, they're on there. It seems that you can pop this little bit out. In which case that little bit must fall in. I don't know how you know when it's held in the right place. Perhaps it doesn't actually batter. And all we've got to do is get that back in. If I had any sense, I would have done this bit before I put that brush back in, but never mind. So somehow I now need to drop this back over that, I think. Oh. Right, now I just need a way of pressing it down in place. Right, let's try pressing it in. In an ideal world I would put something round like a socket down there, but these brushes are not going to let me. So I'll have to press it with... Oh, something just clicked then, so maybe... Oh. I think the idea is to allow that centre thing to move so that the bush can be self-aligning. Now we need that open enough to let the first part of the shaft go on, so that's the first little bit. Alright. Nearly. That's that one that way. That one that way. Oh! Nearly on. And then, oh look, there's a little notch there that goes there. Oh, that's the only one with a notch, so that's handy. Right, and we're on. That's the shaft, so we'll put one drop on there like that, spin that, and then I think we'll try the same at this end. Just one drop, I don't want too much oil to get in there. Alright. It works! It turns out the answer is a small cold chisel and a hammer. I managed to tap that back into there, that's back onto there. This is spinning freely, so with a little bit we're in luck. That doesn't seem to have moved, so we still seem to be okay there. So with a bit of luck we've got a working motor. Now I've got to work out how to put this switch back on the motor. That side. And we should be able to do is just a bit of blue tack to help keep everything. It's amazing how everything tries to move. I think that's about where we want it. Plug that into our 4-volt power supply, and if we touch this to this, we get nothing. Well, I thought that was the switch. Does the switch not work? Switch no worky. Ah, that is why I'm not getting a very good connection at the actual motor. Looks like something like water or something has got inside there. Oh, that's revolting. It's all covered in green slime. So that does that. That must act like a little spring. That could do with a wash. And possibly they can as well, because that's just... oh yeah, that's full of green goo, and that one as well. I think I'll give those a wash. Parts of the switch have come up like new. There's the slider, and these they look like they're silver plated. That just needs to go in there. Needs to go in there. This one doesn't want to sit down. Go on, in you go. Right, there we are. This end I haven't scrubbed, but I scrubbed it with the wire brush, so I think that's probably going to be okay. So we just need to get that back in there. Oh, nearly forgot. But we need this thing. With the bump downwards. So that seems to be working. So we just need to test it now with the motor. Right, back wired up again, switch back in, motor back in, power supply. We're on what I think is left or reverse. And I don't know if you can see there, can you see there? It's going left. Now let's turn that to the right, and we should go this way now. And we do. Right, now I'm not going to put you through this, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take all these pieces out, clean the case in hot soapy water, bring it back nice and clean, and these we need to clean as well. You can see these bits are dead easy to clean or to take out and clean. I mean, that just lifts out. The bearing is, I mean, it's like new. It goes round so slow I don't think it'd ever wear out. And these, they're just bushings like was seized on the motor, so they will need a clean and a bit of grease. And then there's a spring clip there, which really isn't important at all, but presumably I can put it back later. And then that's it. So that's that half, and then that's the other half. Don't think they're ever going to come up as good as new, but they could be a lot cleaner than they are. Right, that's the two halves freshly washed in dishwashing liquid. Even the label has stayed in place. It's not perfect, but it's come up pretty clean. Now we just have to clean those bits, put them back in there. I've just checked the screws to make sure that the screws are all in place. It's funny that this one, it does match the others, so it looks like it is a match for those, but all of these, no rust, no staining, nothing. That one, it was rusty, so I've had to clean it. Very strange. Right, I'm just going to give these a light clean. I mean, they don't need to be put in some sort of chemical solvent or whatever. I mean, you can see from the look of them that they're not particularly dirty at all. And sometimes these bushes, they've been well impregnated with oil or grease, so washing them does them no good whatsoever, because the solvent can take any goodness out of them. Oh, that's a problem. Where's that come from? There, perhaps. As you can see, apart from a little bit of grease that's on them, which is very little, I just have to try and work out where that washer come from. It's obviously something to do with end float. I think if this was full of grit or dirt or something, I would probably give everything a good hot wash, but presumably you can see that, you know, this, if anything, the only thing on here is grease. Now I will grease it up afterwards, but what I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of oil on where the bearings are. And try and encourage that to go down in where the bearing is, because I find that oil works very well in those conditions. Right. Still don't know where that little washer came from. Never mind, I'll assume it was from there. But as I say, these could be oil impregnated, or maybe they're not. Oh, I can feel that rub in there. I wonder if that's the end that washer came from. Let's try it on that end. Fits okay. Yeah, I can't feel it rubbing now. What about this end? Does this end now feel like it's rubbing anywhere? No. Maybe. Yeah, that's a smooth. Maybe that's the way round it goes. We'll see. We can always change it later if we got it wrong. Alright, Looks nice and smooth. So that's one ready. And now we've got this one, and again you can see, I mean, there's barely a mark on it. It's all clean. That looks to be where you could put a small chuck if you want. I'm not even going to try to open up the bearing and put more grease in it, because you've only got to feel this. You can feel there's grease in it. It's not spinning so free because of lack of grease. It's not loose in any way. And you can see that round here it's in perfect condition. It just needs some of the grease wiped off and some fresh grease added. We've got that bearing at that end, which I again will put a tiny drop of oil on, and then there's a little bit of grease in the cogs, but I'm not going to worry about that too much because I shall be putting some more there anyway. So what I will do is, like I said before, I'll put a tiny drop of oil on here, see if I can encourage that to go down. These don't look like they are oil impregnated bearings, so maybe the oil doesn't make any difference, but obviously it's not going to do any harm. Right, that spins on there, lovely. That spins on there. I can't hear any noise, so that sounds pretty good. I mean there's a little bit of play in that, but I suspect that much play was in it when it was new. Right, got this bit. That obviously sits in there, bearing in tight. That turns beautifully. And then this is its gear. Put that in there. And is that sitting exactly as before? Difficult to know, but I think it's good enough. So, because if that washer was at this end, it would make so little difference. That you can see there's plenty of room for movement there, so I don't think that's going to matter. So we'll put some grease on these in a minute, but I think what we'll do first is we'll get the motor back in. Now the motor, you need to get this slide switch in first. And then, as that starts to go down, there's the electrical contact switch, clicks down into there, that goes into there, and then, bingo, we're turning the motor in reverse, that's that there. Right, we're all in. Then, this, you can see, that just sits in there like that. And then that moves that, and then somewhere, there it is, there's a piece of wire. We won't be using this in its current state eventually, but for now. So that will be the other end of our switch, and that goes down there, and so that would go on to there. So that's all into there. So all we need to do now is a quick test. Now we know that this end is going to be plus. This end is eventually going to end up as minus. Plug my power supply in. We'll get it round the right way. Right, so that's power supply. Right, now we should be going that way. Oh. And we're going the wrong way. Oh no, it's because it's got switched the wrong way. So we should be going that way. That's good. And then if we put that down that end, we should go back the other way. See if I can stop it jumping out this time. And there we go. I've just put this together for a moment because I want to check to see if I can get this charge socket in. And it looks like if I open the hole here where the old charge socket was, which is this crusty old thing, I can probably get that in there with ease, and there would be that much sticking out, but I don't think that's ever going to matter because you can't stand this up like that because it'd just fall over. So the fact that this bit could be sticking out by about 5mm is not going to make any difference. As you can see, it's not going to take much effort. I don't even need to put it in a drill. I can just turn that by hand. You can see it's pulling off little bits. Oh, and that's it, we're in. It's just not quite gone round full circle. There we are. So I don't think we need very much effort there. And then with luck that will fit in there. Now it's possible something inside is stopping it going any further, but you can see that that's going to go in there like that. I just need to find out if there's anything further in. I don't think there is. Let's try it now. There you are, and then that would be it. I don't mind it sticking out that much. That's obviously the input to charge it. This is the output to the battery. Now, the other two outputs, that output there minus and that one there plus, they could be used to drive the motor, but I've had no success with that in the past because these boards are not powerful enough to drive a small motor. They're fine for LEDs, but they struggle with motors. So I will take the power for the motor straight from the battery. So there will be no cut out for the battery in terms of if you are over discharging it. So there will be a cutout for charging the battery up, but not for discharging it through the motor. So now we've got plus from here to that switch, we've got minus from here up to here where the trigger is. So in theory we should have power all the way around. Let's see what happens if we unlock it. Yes, so we've got power. Alright, this is the furthest me plug lead will reach at the moment, but I've got it plugged into a USB, so if I turn that on, and according to that we're charging. Right, I've marked out where I think a little window needs to be to see the circuit board. Let's hope there's nothing important behind that point. Shouldn't be. Now we just need that to be a bit bigger. Obviously the size is anybody's guess because I just need to be able to see some light from the circuit board. Let's try that. Okay. I've never tried this before, but I've put a little bit of Kaptan tape in there, and normally I try and put some 2-pack adhesive in there, but I'm going to try with the glue gun. I'm not sure if the glue gun's ever going to be clear enough, but I'm going to just try it because it'd be interesting to know. I think what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of glue along the back of the battery. I need some to hold this circuit board. I think what I'll do is I'll just blob some down the back there. Grease on all the moving parts, especially the ones that are refusing to sit down properly. I think that'll probably distribute itself around the cog once it gets going. Same with that. I don't know that we actually need any at the back there, but we'll put a little bit there. Let's try and make sure there's enough that if this gets warm, some grease could run down into the bearing. Don't know if it ever will. Right, I think that's it. So I think in theory we can finish putting this together. All we need to do is get this part. Let's get a bit of Kaptan tape off the inside, that's gone. Oh, apart from the fact it won't let go of my finger. We've got a sort of a bubble there, which is that's not too bad, is it? Can always rub it down a little bit later, I suppose. Now the trick to this always seems to be this switch. You can't seem to get this switch to go in very easily. The forward and reverse switch. So it's oh, I think it went that time first go. That's that gone. Oh wow, I think everything's actually gone first go. Let's just check that's moving. Okay, yep, that's moving okay. That's the lock. That's reverse. That's forward. So we just need screws. Right, that's the odd one. That. Let's try the Super weedy snap-on. It won't over-tighten anything with this, that's for sure. As you can tell, it barely puts a screw in. And last, it really is hopeless. But you can finish it off by hand, that's what it says in the instructions. But it is a bit pathetic. You can see how much this one hasn't gone in. There's our charger. Plug that into there. Ha! And we've got a red light. Right, let's test it. Now obviously I'm not really interested in whether it can drill, you know, holes or whether it can put in a 4-inch screw, because that's obviously not what this was ever intended for. It's really far more suited for just use for screwing tiny screws into things or unscrewing things. So that's what it's for, and that's what it will be used for. But you can see I've got a tiny little screw on the end there. Let's try it. Oh, it's got plenty of power. Look at that, straight in. So in fact it's probably got more power than I need it to have.